Apparently, finding designer lingerie that mysteriously isn't yours in your husband's SUV isn't what therapists recommend as a marriage enrichment activity. Welcome to my perfectly normal Tuesday afternoon that morphed into the season finale of My Husband's Secret Life, a show I never auditioned for, but somehow became the involuntary leading lady of. My name is Nia Jones. I'm 38 years old, and until last week, I thought I was living the upper-middle-class dream in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. A nice house with a pool we can barely afford, 2 kids with soccer schedules that require NASA-level coordination, and a husband of 12 years who I thought was just going through a mid-40s crisis with his sudden gym interest. Spoiler alert, the gym had a name. Amani Williams, 29, personal trainer, size small. Let me rewind and paint this disaster in the appropriate American technicolor. I'm a dental hygienist. Yes, the person who makes you feel guilty for not flossing while having their fingers in your mouth. My husband Darius is an account manager at a software firm, the type of job where he wears chinos every day and complains about corporate synergy during our Whole Foods rotisserie chicken dinners. We have 2 children. Zola, who is 10 but acts 16 with her TikTok obsession, and Langston, 7, who collects rocks and dead bugs with a worrying enthusiasm. Our marriage wasn't perfect. Whose is? But I thought we were solid. The type of couple who could passive-aggressively load the dishwasher to make a point, but still remembered how the other liked their coffee, and occasionally had a date night at a P.F. Chang's when my mother watched the kids. 12 years building a life together, surviving sleepless nights with newborns, financial stress, and that phase where Darius tried to grow a beard that made him look like a lost Brooklyn hipster. Then came last Tuesday. I was driving our Chevrolet Traverse, the quintessential vehicle that screams I've surrendered to suburban life, and reached under the passenger seat for the pack of Orbit gum I keep there. Instead, my hand hit something plastic. A shopping bag, Victoria's Secret to be exact. Now, if my husband had bought me lingerie, it would have been, first, the first time in about 3 years, and second, a total shock, since Darius usually gets me Amazon gift cards for special occasions with the romance of a utility bill. I pulled out the bag, and there it was, a red lace bra and a matching thong, tag still on. Size small. I wear a medium on my most optimistic days and after an aggressive application of Spanx. Well, this is awkward, I said to absolutely no one in the car. My brain began the mental gymnastics that wives have perfected since the beginning of time. Maybe it's for me, but he got the wrong size. Maybe it's for his sister's birthday. Could our son be going through a very specific and worryingly adult exploration phase? But the rational part of my brain, the one that knows Darius still wears boxers with holes because they are still functional, knew exactly what it was. I did what any reasonable adult would do. I drove to a Starbucks, ordered a large latte with an extra shot of espresso, and parked to have my nervous breakdown with adequate caffeine support. Then I pulled out my phone and went into DC spy mode. First stop, our shared bank app. And there it was, shining like radioactive betrayal on my screen. Victoria's Secret, $187.43 from 2 days ago. The same day Darius told me he was hitting the gym hard after work. $187 for a few scraps of red fabric that wouldn't even cover a sandwich. The financial betrayal almost hurt as much as the actual betrayal. Almost. Next level investigation, Google Maps location history. We had turned on location sharing years ago when Darius went on a business trip to Seattle, and I was convinced he'd get lost between the hotel and the convention center. This man once got lost in our neighborhood giant food. I clicked on his timeline for the day of the purchase. The little blue dot didn't place him at Equinox. It placed him at the Macy's in Tyson's Corner. I went back to checking his social media activity, something I had never bothered to monitor because I assumed he only used it to share unfunny memes and argue football with his college buddies. That's when I noticed a pattern. Darius had been systematically liking and, occasionally, commenting on photos posted by someone named Amani Williams. Her profile picture showed a toned, tanned blonde in workout gear, flashing a perfect set of teeth and holding a protein shake as if it contained the elixir of youth. I clicked on her public profile, thank God or thank narcissism for wanting maximum followers. Amani Williams, 29, personal trainer at Elite Fitness, Darius's gym. Lover of sunsets, green smoothies, and inspirational quotes about becoming your best self. Her photos were a shrine to fitness culture. Workout videos, meal prep containers organized like color swatches, and the occasional philosophical caption about breaking limits that probably referred to lifting weights, but took on a whole new meaning in my current situation. I kept scrolling and scrolling, my latte forgotten, and then I found the jackpot. A photo from 3 weeks ago. Darius was in the background of a group picture at a gym event, looking at Amani with the same expression Langston gets when looking at the Target Christmas toy catalog. Then I checked the mutual connections. Bingo! Amani was friends with Shayla, Darius's cousin. The family connection. How they probably met. Shayla, the one who had been telling Darius he should get in shape for his 40th birthday next year. I kept navigating Amani's life, exposed in perfectly filtered squares. Her most recent post chilled me. A photo of Christmas Eve prep, tagged at her mother's house in Richmond, Virginia. The caption read, "Prepping for the best Christmas Eve dinner with the family, Mama's famous baked macaroni and cheese and all the fixings. Blessed, family time, Christmas." I clicked on the location tag and found her mother's profile. Dolores Williams, 64, parish volunteer coordinator, award-winning pound cake baker, and grandmother to the children of Amani's 3 siblings. Her profile was also public and filled with community events, church functions, and proud family photos. The perfect Black American family preparing for the perfect Black American holiday. It was then that the perfect nuclear revenge occurred to me. I had spent years cleaning other people's teeth, listening to their problems while they couldn't answer because my hands were in their mouths. I had mastered the art of the polite smile while listening to Janet's cruise vacations or Robert's pickleball game. I had perfected patience. I had become an expert at making others feel comfortable while they were vulnerable. But now it was time to use those skills in a different way. For 3 days, I planned everything. I went to work, prepared the kids' lunches, washed Darius's clothes, and maintained pleasant conversations about his workouts. I watched him text messages under the dinner table and pretended not to notice. I bought a chic black dress that made me look like I'd lost 10 pounds overnight. I had my hair styled the way the cute stylist at the salon said would better frame my face. I put on makeup that, for once, wasn't from the drugstore. Then I took that red lingerie set, folded it carefully, and placed it in a pretty gift box with a gold ribbon. I wrote a simple card. "Amani, you left this in my husband's car. Thought you might want it back. Best wishes, Nia Jones, Darius's wife." On Christmas Eve, exactly at 9:15 p.m., I drove to the address I had found thanks to some light Facebook stalking. I stood on the porch of an immaculate townhouse with a holiday wreath on the door, a black nativity scene visible through the window, and the sound of family conversation floating in the air. I rang the bell with the gift box in my hand, wearing my best dental hygienist smile, the one that says, "This won't hurt a bit right before it hurts," and hurts a lot. The door opened to reveal a woman in her 60s wearing a festive apron with reindeer motifs and a smile that screamed, "I bake for the whole neighborhood." Dolores Williams, I presumed, the matriarch of this modern-day Norman Rockwell picture. "Hello, good evening," she greeted me with genuine warmth. "Can I help you?" I maintained my professional smile, the one that has gotten me through countless interactions with patients who swear they floss daily, despite the small ecosystem developing between their teeth. "Hello, Ms. Williams. I'm Nia Jones." I paused, letting the moment breathe, like a fine wine, or in this case, the vinegar that was about to be splashed in someone's face. "I'm so sorry to interrupt your Christmas Eve, but Amani left something important in my husband Darius's car, and I thought it would be appropriate to return it personally." Ms. Williams's eyebrows arched slightly, but her host training kicked in. "Oh, how thoughtful. Please come in for a moment." "I won't stay long. I assured her, stepping into a foyer that smelled of roast lamb and family tradition. I just wanted to make sure she received this. The living room opened before me like a holiday edition of Architectural Digest, a grand dining table set with real cloth napkins. Not the paper ones I use for fancy dinners, a golden brown turkey on a platter, and around the table, the entire Williams clan, grandparents, siblings with their spouses, adorable children in party outfits who hadn't stained themselves with gravy yet. And there she was, Amani, even more impeccable in person, wearing a cream sweater that probably cost more than my entire J. Crew wardrobe. Her blonde hair fell over her shoulders in the kind of waves I had tried and failed to achieve with my flat iron. She was mid-laugh about something, but when she saw me, her expression froze faster than a lake in the Rocky Mountains in January. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to the unexpected guest. I could almost hear the scratch of the vinyl record of every movie scene where things are about to go spectacularly wrong. "I'm sorry, what was your name?" Ms. Williams asked, her hosting instinct bravely trying to salvage the situation. "Nia Jones, Darius Jones's wife." I smiled at Amani, whose face had reached the color of the red wine on the table. "Darius and I have been married for 12 years. We have 2 wonderful children." I could see the exact moment Amani's brain processed what was happening. Her eyes darted to the gift box in my hands, then back to my face, and then, desperately around the room, as if looking for an emergency exit that could materialize in her mother's living room. "Amani, honey, do you know Ms. Jones?" her mother asked. The confusion was evident. An older man, who must have been Mr. Williams, rose from the head of the table. "Is everything all right?" "Everything is perfect," I said cheerfully. "I just wanted to return something Amani accidentally left. It seemed too valuable to mail." I stepped forward and placed the elegantly wrapped box on the table. The gold ribbon shimmered under the dining room chandelier like a beacon of impending doom. "It's Victoria's Secret," I added helpfully. "I believe it cost $187.43. My husband's credit card statement was very specific. The silence that followed was so complete you could hear the pecan pie cooling in the kitchen. Amani looked like she might dissolve into the hardwood floor, a personal trainer suddenly unable to contract her own core to stay upright. "I don't understand," Ms. Williams said, looking alternately at her daughter and me. "Amani, what is this all about?" Amani's brother, who looked about my age, began to show that dawning comprehension on his face. His wife beside him whispered something in his ear, and his eyes widened. "Go ahead and open it," I suggested kindly to Ms. Williams. "I think Amani would like to get her things back." Like a woman in a trance, Ms. Williams untied the gold ribbon and lifted the lid of the box. The red lace lingerie set lay there in all its scandalous glory, with the size S tag prominently visible along with my handwritten note. Ms. Williams's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh, my goodness!" Mr. Williams leaned over to see what had caused his wife's distress, and then straightened up so quickly I thought he might suffer a strain. His face flushed deeply, not with embarrassment, but with the kind of righteous anger that only comes from a father who has just discovered his daughter is not the angel he thought she was. "Amani Isabel Williams," he thundered, in the voice I imagined he used during deacons' meetings. "What does this mean?" Amani finally found her voice, though it came out as a strangled whisper. "Daddy, can I explain?" "Explain why another woman's husband bought you underwear," her mother interjected, pronouncing the word underwear as if it were a particularly vulgar obscenity. Amani's sister-in-law, a woman with a practical bob haircut and judgment in her eyes, pulled her 2 young children closer as if to shield them from the moral corruption unfolding at the Christmas Eve dinner table. "Maybe I should go," said Amani's teenage niece, clearly delighted by this unexpected drama and already pulling out her phone. I could almost see the family group chat notifications exploding all over Richmond. "Nobody is going anywhere until we get to the bottom of this," Mr. Williams declared. I decided it was my cue to add one more pinch of chaos to the situation. Oh, I should mention, Darius told me he was at the gym when he bought this. Apparently, leg day now includes a stop at the lingerie section. Fascinating workout routine. Ms. Williams turned to her daughter, tears forming in her eyes. Is this true? Are you messing with a married man who has children? After all we taught you about faith and family values? I'm the co-coordinator for the pre-marriage counseling at the church, for heaven's sake. The irony was richer than the Remy Martin that would have been served after dinner. Amani finally managed to speak, her voice shaking. Mom, Dad, it's not what it looks like. It looks like my husband bought you expensive lingerie while telling me he was working out, I interrupted helpfully. Also, he charged it to our family credit card, the one we use for our kids' expenses. Zola needs braces next year, so every penny counts. Amani's youngest nephew, who couldn't have been more than 6, chose that moment to ask in a piercing voice, Auntie Amani, why did another lady's husband buy you panties? And that's when Amani's sister-in-law spit her wine in a spectacular stream across the white tablecloth, creating a Rorschach test that looked remarkably like the map of a life imploding. Children, to the living room, Mr. Williams boomed. With that final blow, I turned to leave, the sounds of familial discord erupting behind me like a volcano that had been dormant for too long. As I walked to my car, I could hear Mr. Williams's booming voice through the still-open front door. In my house, on Christmas Eve, the Lord is testing me. The Travers felt different as I drove away from the Williams family disaster, lighter somehow, as if the weight of the humiliation I had just distributed had physically lifted my SUV a few inches off the road. I put Beyoncé's Irreplaceable on a volume that would have made Zola roll her eyes and Langston cover his ears. But they weren't with me. They were at my mother's, blissfully unaware that their father was starring in the suburban version of every Tyler Perry movie about infidelity. I had dropped them off earlier with the excuse that Mom and Dad needed to have adult time. My mother had winked and said something about keeping the fire alive. If she only knew the kind of fire I was planning, the kind that reduces entire lives to ashes. I was halfway home when my phone exploded with notifications. Darius calling, Darius texting. Darius apparently discovering his secret was no longer so secret. I connected the Bluetooth and let his voice fill the car. Nia, where are you? I just got like 15 texts from Amani. What did you do? The panic in his voice was delicious, like the first sip of wine after a particularly brutal day of scraping calculus off whiny patients' teeth. Hello, honey, I replied in the sweetest voice I could muster. How was your Christmas Eve? Did you enjoy your workout today? Nia, what have you done? Every word landed like a rock, dropping into a very deep well. I returned property to its rightful owner. Victoria's Secret has a strict no-return policy on intimate apparel. Hygiene issues. I paused at a red light, checking my reflection in the rearview mirror. I looked good. Really good. By the way, Amani's mom makes an amazing turkey. From what little I saw before things went sideways, of course. You went to her parents' house? His voice had reached a pitch I had only heard once when he found a spider in the shower and screamed like he was auditioning for a horror film. You should call her, I suggested helpfully. She might need some emotional support right now. Her dad looked like he was about to have a coronary, and her mom was questioning every parenting decision she's ever made. The conversation at the Christmas Eve table went from pass the yams to, my daughter is a homewrecker pretty quickly. I'm coming home right now. The phone cut out. Perfect. Exactly as planned. I pulled into our driveway and hurried inside. I had maybe 20 minutes before Darius arrived, and I needed to be ready. This was only the second act of my carefully orchestrated symphony of revenge. While waiting, I decided to check Amani's Instagram. Her latest post from that morning showed her perfect manicure next to a tray of red velvet cupcakes with the caption, "Grateful for new beginnings. Blessed, excited, family first." The irony was so thick you could spread it on a biscuit. Then, my phone vibrated with a message from a number I didn't recognize. It's Shayla, Darius's cousin. I just heard what happened from Amani. I'm so incredibly sorry. I had no idea she was seeing Darius. I thought they just knew each other from the gym. Call me if you need anything. Interesting. So Shayla hadn't been the matchmaker after all. She was collateral damage in Darius's web of lies. I saved her number. Having allies in the family could prove useful. My phone vibrated again, a text from one of the assistants at my clinic. OMG, Nia. Amani Williams just went private on her Instagram. Everyone is talking about what happened at her Christmas Eve dinner. Tracy's sister-in-law is neighbors with Amani's cousin, and she heard everything. Call me. Small towns masquerading as cities. You had to love them. The Upper Marlboro Gossip Network moved faster than our internet connection. I heard Darius's car pull into the driveway. Showtime. When he burst through the door, he looked like he'd aged 5 years in the last hour. His face was flushed, his hair messed up, and he was still wearing the holiday sweater his mom had given him last Christmas that made him look like a walking Hallmark movie ad. "Have you lost your mind?" he hissed, closing the door behind him and checking that the neighbors weren't witnessing his breakdown through our picture windows. "Interesting choice for a conversation starter," I replied, calmly sipping the tea I had brewed while waiting. I was hoping for something like, "I'm sorry I betrayed our marriage," or "Please forgive me for buying another woman lingerie with our family credit card." But hey, let's go with, "Have you lost your mind?" Very original. "You humiliated Amani in front of her entire family on Christmas Eve." I set down my teacup with exaggerated care. Fascinating that your first concern is her shame and not, say, the fact that you've been cheating on your wife of 12 years and the mother of your children. Darius ran his hands through his hair, a nervous college tic that popped up whenever he was caught in a lie, like the time he claimed to be studying when he was actually at a bar watching the NBA Finals. "It's not what you think." "Oh, it's not?" "Because I think you've been sleeping with your 29-year-old personal trainer while telling me you were getting in shape for your 40th birthday. I think you bought her lingerie with our family card, the same one we use for Langston's asthma medication. I think you've been living a double life and assumed I was too busy with the kids and work to notice. We need to calm down and discuss this rationally," he said, shifting tactics. The account manager inside him was emerging, the one who soothed client worries with corporate jargon and empty promises. "Rationally? You want rationality? Fine, let's be rational." I got up and walked toward our home office. Darius followed, confusion written on his face, like the PowerPoint presentations he was always working on. I opened my laptop and spun it around for him to see. On the screen was a meticulously labeled, color-coded, and organized spreadsheet, the same way I managed our family finances. But this wasn't our budget. This was something completely different. "What am I looking at?" he asked, squinting. "This, dear Darius, is what I like to call Exhibit A for our divorce proceedings," I smiled sweetly. "It's a comprehensive log of your affair with Amani, complete with timestamps, locations, credit card charges, and discrepancies between your stories about where you were and where your phone actually showed you were." His face went from flushed to pale, faster than the property taxes went up last year. "You've been tracking me." "No, you've been tracking yourself. Your Google timeline, our shared bank app, your very public likes on Amani's photos, the gym check-in records that mysteriously align with her personal training schedule she posts online. I've just been connecting very obvious dots." I scrolled through the spreadsheet. "Did you know you haven't actually worked out in approximately 6 weeks? Yet somehow you've spent $340 at the smoothie bar there. Must be very thirsty work watching Amani demonstrate how to do squats." "This is an invasion of privacy," he sputtered, the indignation of the guilty flooding his voice. I laughed, truly laughed, and it felt marvelous. Privacy in a marriage? That's rich, coming from the man who once insisted we share our email passwords because couples shouldn't have secrets. Remember that? It was right after I found those texts from your college ex-girlfriend, and you swore you were just catching up. Darius collapsed into the office chair, the reality of his situation finally sinking in. "What do you want, Nia?" And there it was, the million-dollar question. What did I want? Revenge? Yes, and I had tasted the first bite at the Williamses' house, but that was just the appetizer. I wanted the main course. "I want you to look at the second tab of that spreadsheet," I said softly. He clicked, and his eyes widened as he scanned the document. "This is everything we own, right? Our assets, accounts, property, investments, everything. Do you notice anything interesting in the distribution column?" He scrolled down, his face growing more distraught. "You've allocated 70% to yourself, plus primary custody of the children, the house, and the traverse, which, by the way, needs new brake pads. You might want to take care of that before I take possession." "This is insane. No court." "Actually," I interrupted, "according to Patricia, you remember her, my patient who happens to be one of the best divorce attorneys in D.C. This is a rather generous offer, considering the documented infidelity, the misuse of family funds, and the fact that I have proof you took Amani to our mountain apartment in Shenandoah last month when you told me you were on a team-building retreat." Darius's head snapped up. "How?" "The security cameras at the apartment also send alerts to my phone, genius. I saw you arrive with her on October 12th at 7:43 p.m. I have the whole recording." I hadn't actually watched more than the arrival. Some things are better left unseen, but he didn't need to know that. "I made a mistake," he whispered, finally abandoning the indignant act. "I got carried away. She paid attention to me, made me feel young again." "Save the midlife crisis explanation for your therapist," I said. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign these papers." I pulled a manila folder from the desk drawer. "Then you're going to pack a suitcase and stay at the Extended Stay America off the highway. I already booked you a room. Tomorrow, you'll come back at noon to explain to Zola and Langston why Daddy won't be living at home anymore." "You've thought of everything," he said, a mixture of defeat and something akin to grudging admiration in his voice. I smiled. "I've spent 12 years managing our entire family's life while you focused on your career and, apparently, your extracurricular activities. Planning comes naturally to me." As I watched Darius trudge upstairs to pack his suitcase, I felt something unexpected. Not satisfaction, not even rage, but a strange sense of calm, the kind that arrives when you know exactly who you are and what you deserve. My phone vibrated with a text from my mother. "Kids are fine. Want me to let them sleep here?" I replied, "Yes, please. Everything is going exactly according to plan." The next day dawned with that pristine clarity that only follows emotional hurricanes. I had slept better than I had in months, sprawled diagonally across our king-sized bed, a small freedom that felt revolutionary after years of sticking to my side. I woke up early, brewed coffee, and reviewed my battle plan for the day. Darius would be back at noon to talk to the kids, who would arrive from my mother's house at 11. That gave me 3 hours to execute Phase 3, what I like to call the financial reckoning. I opened my laptop and logged into our bank accounts, investment portfolios, and retirement plans. Before Darius left for the extended stay, which, by his expression, might as well have been called prolonged stay in purgatory, he had signed the papers I had prepared, including the authorization for me to make certain financial changes. First, I transferred his share of our emergency fund, minus the cost of Zola's upcoming braces and Langston's summer camp for his asthma, to a new account solely in my name. Next, I paid off my car and both of our credit cards using our joint savings. Then, I contacted our investment advisor to initiate the process of dividing our retirement plans as per the agreement. By 10:30, I had secured our financial future, mine and the children's. Darius would still walk away with his retirement plan and enough to start over, but the days of him having control over our family finances were officially over, like his youth, his reliability, and apparently his ability to hide lingerie properly. At 11 o'clock, my mother's Subaru pulled into the driveway. I watched through the window as Zola got out with her head down, probably texting her friends. Langston scrambled out behind her, clutching what looked like a new rock for his collection. My mother followed, carrying their backpacks and wearing her "I have opinions about your life choices" expression. "How are you holding up, honey?" she asked as soon as the children scurried off to their rooms. "Surprisingly well," I answered honestly. "It's amazing how quickly 12 years of marriage can be reorganized when you find red lingerie that isn't yours." My mother's lips tightened. "Darius called your father this morning." "That was unexpected." "And your dad told him he's lucky you didn't light his clothes on fire in the yard." She smiled grimly. Then he hung up. Retired military fathers have a marvelous way of cutting to the chase. "Did Dad mention if Darius tried to defend himself?" "Apparently he said something about a temporary lapse, and your father asked him if he had temporarily forgotten he had a wife and 2 kids for the last few months." She patted my hand. I sat them both on the couch. "It's not about getting a pool. It's something more serious." Langston hugged his rock tighter. "Is Daddy sick?" "No, honey. Daddy is healthy. Physically, at least." Morally was another question. The doorbell rang at exactly noon. Say what you will about Darius Jones, but the man was punctual for important meetings and apparently for scheduling his infidelities. He looked terrible, the kind of terrible you get from sleeping on a hotel mattress that has seen too many traveling salesmen and not enough deep cleaning. His eyes were red-rimmed, his clothes wrinkled, and he had missed a spot shaving. "Come in," I said formally, as if he were a door-to-door salesman instead of the man who had seen me give birth twice. The children rushed to him with their usual enthusiasm. For their sake, I maintained a neutral expression instead of the "your father is a walking disappointment" face I had been practicing in the mirror. "Why don't we all sit down?" I suggested after the initial hugs. "Daddy has something important to tell you." Darius shot me a look that clearly said, "I thought we were going to do this together," but I returned a smile that said, "You made this mess. You get to start cleaning it up." "Zola." "Langston." His voice cracked slightly. "Your mother and I have decided that I'm going to live somewhere else for a while." Zola's phone dropped onto her lap. A miracle in itself. "Are you guys getting divorced?" Leave it to a 10-year-old to cut straight to the chase. I swear she got that from my side of the family. "Yes," I answered, when Darius seemed to choke on the word. "We are getting divorced." Langston's lower lip trembled. "But why? Don't you love each other anymore?" Darius looked like a man facing a firing squad. "Sometimes adults make mistakes," he said, choosing his words carefully. "I made a very big mistake that hurt Mommy a lot." "What did you do?" Zola demanded, suddenly turning into a protective daughter. Darius looked at me for help. I raised an eyebrow. "You dug this hole, pal. I wasn't honest with your mother. I broke promises I made to her when we got married." Zola's eyes narrowed in a way that was eerily reminiscent of my own mother. "You cheated on her, didn't you? Like Olivia's dad with her nanny." The accuracy of her assessment left Darius speechless. I intervened, putting my arm around Langston, who had started to sob. "Yes, Zola, Daddy had a relationship with someone else. That's why we can't be married anymore." "Is she prettier than Mom?" Zola asked, shooting her father a glare that would have made lesser men crumble. "No one is prettier than your mother," Darius replied, and for a brief moment I almost remembered why I had married him. Almost. The conversation continued with Darius explaining the new living arrangements, visitation schedules, and repeatedly assuring the children that none of this was their fault and that both of us loved them more than anything in the world. After an emotionally exhausting hour, Darius left with promises to call that night and see them the next day. Langston clung to me while Zola stomped off to her room, a preview of the teenage years looming around the corner. Just as Darius pulled out of the driveway, a sleek black Mercedes-Benz pulled up behind him. A woman in an impeccable pantsuit emerged, carrying a leather briefcase. "Patricia Velez, divorce attorney extraordinaire and my Thursday afternoon dental patient for the past 6 years." The look on Darius's face as he recognized her was worth every penny of her $400 per hour. He drove away with the defeated posture of a man who knew he had been outmatched. "Punctual?" I greeted her at the door. "Always," she smiled professionally. He signed the preliminary papers. "Every page," I confirmed, leading her to the dining room where I had laid out all the documentation. "Excellent. And how did the children take it?" Also, as expected, Zola figured it out immediately. Langston is confused but resilient. Patricia nodded. "Children are surprisingly adaptable. Now, let's make sure your financial security is more ironclad than my mother's sweet potato pie recipe." For the next 2 hours, we finalized documents, made calls, and secured my position. By the time Patricia left, I had transformed from soon-to-be divorced mom to independent woman with a legally bulletproof future. I was making dinner when my phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. "This is Dolores Williams. Your husband's cousin Shayla gave me your number. I want to apologize for my daughter's behavior and let you know that in our home, we do not tolerate family wrecking. We have asked Amani to find somewhere else to live and reflect on her choices. If you need anything, please don't hesitate to call. P.S. I have removed her as co-coordinator of the church youth group. I saved the number, strangely touched by this gesture from a woman whose Christmas Eve I had spectacularly ruined." Another message came in, this time from the director of my dental clinic. "Just heard Amani Williams was fired from Elite Fitness after 3 clients, all married women, complained about her training methods with their husbands. Your Christmas Eve surprise is the talk of every salon in Upper Marlboro. See you Monday. P.S. We are all on your side." I smiled as I stirred the tomato sauce. The universe has a way of balancing its accounts, and sometimes it helps to give it a little nudge in the right direction. My phone rang again. Darius. I let it go to voicemail. Whatever crisis he was having could wait until tomorrow. Tonight was for me and the children. Our first dinner as what the divorce papers clinically called the newly restructured family unit. But I had a better name for it. The start of our next chapter. 6 months can change everything. Half a year since the Christmas Eve lingerie incident, as my co-workers at the clinic now reverently call it. And life has reorganized itself into something I never imagined. Something better. Spring in Maryland brings allergies, tourists fleeing colder climates, and, in my case, the final divorce decree arriving by certified mail. I signed for the envelope wearing the same black dress I had worn to deliver that gift box at the Williams dinner. Poetic symmetry, even if I was the only one who appreciated it. "Mom, everybody knows you hate small dogs," she said. Just like everybody knew Dad was acting shady with his phone for months. She grabbed an apple from the fruit bowl. "Langston and I talked about it. We're glad you're not sad anymore." A lump formed in my throat. "When did you get so wise?" She shrugged with elaborate nonchalance. "Probably when Dad tried to convince us that the pool at his new apartment makes up for missing Langston's science fair." She took a bite of the apple. "It doesn't, by the way." After she left, I sat at our kitchen island, my kitchen island now, and reflected on the unexpected gifts that had sprung from Darius's betrayal. First, self-respect. I had always prided myself on being forgiving, accommodating, understanding. It turns out those qualities, taken to an extreme, become doormat behavior. The day I walked into the Williams family's Christmas Eve with that box of lingerie was the day I reclaimed something I hadn't even realized I was missing. Second, community. The Upper Marlboro Moms Mafia, as my office staff called them, had rallied around me with unexpected fierceness, food drop-offs, offers to babysit, and most importantly, the social exile of both Darius and Amani from any establishment nicer than a Wawa. Third, freedom. The freedom to eat ice cream straight from the container without Darius's comments on portion control. The freedom to watch true crime documentaries instead of endless football games. The freedom to rediscover who Nia Jones was before she became Mrs. Darius Jones. Speaking of Darius, he had adapted to his new role as a weekend dad with all the enthusiasm of a man assigned community service. He had recently been promoted at work, apparently having fewer family obligations, freed up time for him to climb the corporate ladder, and had started sending the children elaborate gifts that I strongly suspected were chosen by his secretary. My phone vibrated with a calendar reminder. Girls' night, Marcella's house, 7 p.m. Another unexpected gift. Real friendships with women I had previously only known as Tyler's mom or Zola's friend's mom. It turns out, nothing bonds women faster than helping one of their own rise from the ashes of an unfaithful husband's fire. As for me, I had also been promoted from hygienist to clinic director, with a raise that made Darius's alimony more of a nice bonus than a necessity. I had started taking photography classes on weekends. I joined a book club that actually debated the books, and I rediscovered my pre-marriage passion for hiking. Last weekend, I hiked Great Falls for the first time in years, sending a selfie from the summit to my new group chat called Post-Divorce Glow-Up Committee. Langston appeared in the kitchen doorway, interrupting my thoughts. "Mom, can Tyler come over and see my new rock collection exhibit?" "Sure, honey. I'll text his mom." "Thanks. Oh, and Dad called. He said he might be late picking us up tomorrow because of a work thing." Langston shrugged. "I told him it was okay because we're going to Aunt Elena's pool afterward anyway." My sister Elena, another relationship that had strengthened after the divorce. Her pool was bigger than Darius's apartment complex pool, a fact the children never tired of pointing out to their father. As Langston ran off to organize his precious rocks, I opened a bottle of wine. Not the cheap wine Darius always bought, but the good Merlot I had acquired a taste for on my recent girls' trip to Napa. I poured myself a generous glass and stepped out onto the back patio. The DC sunset painted the sky in vibrant oranges and pinks, the perfect backdrop for contemplation. If someone had told me last Christmas Eve that I would be sitting here now, divorced, thriving, genuinely happy, I would have thought they were delirious. But life is curious that way. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the best beginnings. Sometimes you need to open a box of red lingerie to close the chapter on a life that was never quite right. And sometimes, just sometimes, revenge isn't served cold after all. It's served at Christmas Eve dinner, wrapped in a gold ribbon and with a side of life-changing clarity.